JLee Library, a place to find your greatness. And I'm your librarian, Mrs. Miller. Our learning target for today's lesson is to provide you with skills and information which will support you in reading a variety of texts. Our success criteria is by the end of the lesson, you will be able to use your iPad to find books in the library, put books on hold, and create a want to read list. The first step is to download Destiny Quest from the app catalog. You may need to pause the lesson in order to accomplish the steps of downloading and logging into Destiny Quest. After you have successfully downloaded the app, the next step is to connect to your library. You will need to type in books.vansd.org and click Connect. You will then see a list of schools. You will need to scroll down and choose JLee Middle School from the list. Next, you will need to log in. Your user ID is your student ID number, just the 6 digits, no VPS. Your password is your 8-digit birthday, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year. Once you have successfully logged in, Destiny Quest can be used for a variety of purposes. You can see the most popular books in the library. You can find where books are located in the library. You can put checked out books on hold, and you can make a wish list of books you want to read. The first screen that you'll see when you log in are the current top 10 books at the JLee Library. This could be a way to find a book that interests you. For example, if The Curious Instant of the Dog in the Nighttime looks good, you could tap on the book, and it's going to provide you with some information about the book, including what's it about and where to find it. The red arrow is pointing to this book's call number, which is sort of like the book's address where it lives in the library. Now you'll remember that your library's fiction section is organized by genres, so all the mystery books are together. You need to go to the mystery section, and then within that section, the books are organized alphabetically by the author's last name. In this case, H.A.D. So in the mystery section, alphabetically you would find H.A.D., and that's where you would find the book. Now, if the book was currently unavailable, all of them are checked out, you could put it on hold. The yellow arrow is pointing to the Hold It button. Once you tap that, the book is put on hold. When it's returned by another student, you will receive an email telling you that it is available and ready for you to pick up. Another activity that can be done on Destiny Quest is you can make a want to read list. You would do this by clicking on the Add to Bookshelf button. Then you can choose what bookshelf to put a book on. You could put it on a have read shelf, on a now reading shelf, or on a want to read shelf. And at the end of this lesson, I'm going to challenge you to put at least one book on your want to read shelf. Now, I understand that Mrs. Lehman is assigning you 3 genres for this trimester for your blue card projects. You're going to need to read a mystery, a science fiction book, and a narrative nonfiction. I'd like to talk to you about some of my favorite books in these genres, and all of these books are available in your library. The first one I'd like to talk about is Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie by Alan Bradley. Not only is this a great mystery, it's also beautifully written. Our main character is Flavia DeLuce. She is a precocious 11-year-old. She aspires to be a chemist and adores tormenting her older sisters. Mysterious events begin when a dead bird is found on the doorstep with a postage stamp bizarrely pinned to its beak. Then Flavia overhears, while eavesdropping, an argument between her father and a man she's never seen before. Then, hours later, Flavia finds that very man lying in the cucumber patch and watches him as he takes his dying breath. You'd think this would be a pretty disconcerting experience for an 11-year-old, but instead Flavia writes, "I wish I could say I was afraid, but I wasn't. Quite the contrary. This was by far the most interesting thing that had ever happened to me in my entire life." And now she has a mystery to solve. Set in 18th century Vienna, The Musician's Daughter by Suzanne Dunlap is not only a mystery, but also historical fiction at its best. 15-year-old Teresa Maria Sherman is trying to solve a brutal mystery. Who killed her father, a famous violinist, and stole his valuable Amati violin? Solving this mystery takes Maria to unexpected places, including a gypsy camp on the banks of the Danube River and the glamour and glitter of the imperial palace. She uncovers blackmail and extortion, as well as the stirrings of first love for someone who is involved in the mystery of her father's death in ways she struggles to understand. The author's writing style beautifully brings to life the era and keeps readers guessing as they uncover the truth alongside intrepid Teresa. The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a classic mystery. This mystery includes attempted murder, an eerie setting, and an enormous diabolical hound of possible supernatural origin. However, best of all, it is a mystery investigated by Sherlock Holmes and his sidekick, Dr. Watson. This is a classic, creepy thriller of a mystery. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of The Hound of the Baskervilles, is often credited with inventing the best detective of all time. Read this book to find out why Sherlock Holmes is readers' all-time favorite detective. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This book comes with a warning. There are some curse words in this book, including the F word. So if your family would not appreciate you reading this book, I recommend that you don't put it on your want-to-read book list. This is the most unique murder mystery you will ever read. Partly that's because the murder victim is a dog, but mostly it's because of the narrator, who is named Christopher. Christopher is a mathematically gifted, autistic 15-year-old boy who decides to investigate the murder of his neighbor's dog. He knows all the countries of the world and their capitals and every prime number up to 7,057. He relates well to animals, but has no understanding of human emotions. He cannot stand to be touched, and he detests the color yellow. Despite his overwhelming fear of interacting with people, Christopher decides to investigate the murder of his neighbor's dog. And in the process, he uncovers secret information about his own mother. Now, with almost 4,000 reviews on Amazon, this book gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you read it, you'll understand why. Now, to change to some science fiction, I'd like to tell you about The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is not only a classic science fiction novel, it is also one of the funniest books you'll ever read. Much like the previous book, it has a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars with over 5,000 reviews on Amazon. Now, seconds before Earth is destroyed to make way for a galactic freeway, the main character, Arthur Dent, is rescued by his friend Ford Prefect. Ford Prefect is a researcher for a revised edition of a travel book entitled The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Arthur and Ford begin a hilarious and unforgettable journey through space, aided by quotes from the guide and a galaxy full of remarkable fellow travelers, including Zaphod Beeblebrox, the two-headed, three-armed ex-hippie, and Marvin, a paranoid, brilliant, and chronically depressed robot. This book is irresistible. Epic by Connor Kostick. This is one of my all-time favorite science fiction novels. Epic is a full immersion computer game which is played by the inhabitants of New Earth. However, it is much more than a computer game because success in the game translates to power and economic success in the real world. The main character's name is Eric, and his parents lose everything as a result of the game Epic. Eric wants revenge, and he finds a way to subvert the rules of the game. The choices that he makes ultimately pull him and his friends into competition with the most powerful and most skillful players of the game. This group is known as the Committee, and they are the most powerful people both in the game and in the real world on New Earth. What Eric and his friends don't know is that the Committee has an evil and deadly secret, and challenging them may spell the end of everything they know and hold dear. Good news about this book is it's the first book in a trilogy, and each book just keeps getting better. Delirium is another science fiction book I recommend. This is the first book in a best-selling trilogy named the Delirium Trilogy. The main character's name is Lena, and she lives in an alternate United States where love has been declared a dangerous disease. As a result, when people turn 18, they are required to undergo a medical procedure called the cure, which keeps them safe from love. Lena, who is almost 18, is looking forward to being cured and living a safe and predictable life. But with just days remaining before she undergoes the procedure, she meets Alex, a boy from the wilds who lives outside the government with others who have not undergone the cure. Alex causes Lena to question everything she thinks is right and good. What will happen if they break the law and fall in love? The Roar is another science fiction book that I highly recommend. This one is a post-apocalyptic thriller. An animal plague has swept the earth, making most of it uninhabitable. The remaining population lives in extremely overcrowded conditions behind the wall. The poorest people live in the shadows, subterranean communities that eat mold-based food. The main character is Mika. Mika's twin sister Ellie has disappeared, and everyone but Mika believes she's dead. He is absolutely certain she is not. As the plot develops, the government invites children to participate in a contest involving a video game called Pod Fighter, and they are offering lifestyle-changing rewards to the winners of the contest. Mika comes to believe that winning the contest will lead him to his missing sister. As the pieces of the puzzle begin to come together, Mika discovers that the leaders will stop at nothing to protect their power and wealth, and that the very foundation of society may be based on lies. Now, nonfiction does not need to be boring or lack of interest. I have a couple of narrative nonfiction books that are as good as anything you'll read in the fiction section of our library. The first one is called Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. The author of this book is an acclaimed journalist and an experienced mountain climber. In May of 1996, he was a member of an expedition attempting to climb Mount Everest. Despite warnings of the approach of a major storm, the leader of the expedition continues with plans to summit the mountain, with tragic results. 4 members of the team die as the group descends from the summit. Krakauer's book is the story of this disaster, and he was a member of the expedition, and an exploration into what went wrong. The 1996 disaster gained wide publicity and raised questions about the commercialization of climbing Everest. Into Thin Air has been a bestseller since it was published, and it has 4.5 stars out of 5 with nearly 4,000 reviews on Amazon. This one is a page turner. The Borden Murders by Sarah Miller. There's an old children's jump roping song that says, Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. That rhyme is based on actual events. In August of 1892, Lizzie Borden calls for help, and when help arrives, they find her father brutally murdered in the family's sitting room. Soon after, the murdered body of her stepmother is also discovered. The prime suspect turns out to be Lizzie Borden herself. But how could a proper young woman from a well-respected family be an axe murderer? This book is an investigation of the murders, including the gruesome details of the murder scene to the court battles and the role that the press played in the whole affair. You'll be asking yourself the same question people have asked ever since the crime. Did Lizzie do it? And if not, who did? Chasing Lincoln's Killer. I love history, and I love a good story. Chasing Lincoln's Killer brings both of those passions together. This book is a fast-paced thriller about the pursuit and capture of John Wilkes Booth. A wild 12-day chase through the streets of Washington, D.C., across the swamps of Maryland, and into the forests of Virginia. This is a true story, and the information comes from primary sources, including letters and manuscripts from the trial. This story is too incredible to be fiction. The last book I'd like to talk about today is Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. This is narrative nonfiction at its best. It reads like a novel. Joe Rance, the main character, has nothing, not even a family, because they abandoned him when he was just a child. Through sheer grit, he gets an education and is accepted at the University of Washington and takes up rowing. This is the story of Joe and 8 other nobodies with nothing who exceeded everyone's expectations by defeating all the entitled teams from the elite Eastern schools and then go on to the 1936 Olympics in Berlin at a time when Germany is ruled by Hitler. You will find yourself racing to the climax to find out what happens and how it happens. All right, I'd like you to take a moment now to add 1 or more of these books to your want to read shelf in Destiny Quest. If none of these appeal to you, come see me in the library and I will help you find a book that works for you. Remember, I hope to see you soon in your library.